All right, let's talk a little bit about the strategic experiential module that Bert Schmidt refers to as relate. This is chapter 8 in the experiential marketing textbook by Bert Schmidt. Relate is a strategic module is probably one of the most powerful of the strategic experiential modules. Relate is being a part of something, some notion of affiliation, the act of formally or informally connecting or joining an organization, a brand, a concept, an idea, an experience. And in the Bert Schmidt's world, the idea behind doing some sort of experiential event is to help an individual become related to or build a sense of belonging to a particular experience, and then that experience then tied to a brand. Some of the aspects of relate that are talked about in this chapter are social influences, social roles, social identity, kin relations, cultural value, group memberships, brand communities, and social categorization. This is all about getting individuals to be socially connected to a particular brand or particular event or a particular experience. It builds on the notion of sense of belonging, or this idea that this is mine or my brand, or I am part of this community that supports this brand. Well, how do I get to be part of the team? Well, perhaps you become a member somehow. Uniforms. When we talk about uniforms, we typically talk about wearing some sort of logoed clothing, whether it's hats or shirts or briefcases or whatever else it might be. You might get a certificate or an award. You might be a card carrying member of the organization. You might get the newsletter, you might get special offers, you might get special information. They might ask you to take a leadership role. There might be meetings, and of course there might be some sense of recognition. Think about other ways that you can get people to relate. A good example of this might be UNLV. While you are a student at UNLV, it is UNLV's job to get you to feel like you are part of UNLV. And then as you graduate and become an alumnus, then you are much more likely to support the organization and speak positively about it going forward. Some other examples of relate are things like sports teams. Of course, with the Raiders coming to town, many of us are going to become part of Raider Nation. I do have Raider Nation license plates on my pickup truck. It could be schools, for instance, a UNLV alumni. You could relate to your employer. You could say, I'm a Caesars employee. Many of you are proud of who you work for, and some of you don't mention who you work for. A lot of it has to do with brands. You know, I have a good friend of mine who is 80 years old, but he refers to himself as a Cadillac man. He always drives Cadillac. He's a big Cadillac supporter. He's a Cadillac man. You might consider yourself to be an iPhone owner. The people who own iPhones tend to have their own iPhone community. They're that's the part of the Apple community. And then, of course, obvious other examples are things like political parties. And as you know now, it's become the political parties have become much more tribal. But that's all part of this notion of relating. And the more you relate to a particular political party, the less likely you are to be influenced by any outside information. Other aspects of relate is an affiliation, a sense of belonging, team building, loyalty, relating to the activity of your lifestyle. Some examples for sports teams are fan clubs, loyalty building activities, those things for MBA programs. It's trying to get you to be a valued alumnus. This is, of course, also relate is related to brand loyalty, support for the brand, positive word of mouth, and brand equity. It's building the sense of belonging that really cannot be underestimated. The importance of this particular strategic experiential module needs to be embraced.